You don't need me to tell you how dangerous and deadly a train collision can be. Whether it's a head-on collision or a rear-end collision, that can result to dangerous and deadly consequences. It's December 14th, 1994. It's been 9 years since SP-7551 East ran away at Cajon Pass before crashing at San Bernardino. However, 9 years after the accident, disaster will strike again when a Santa Fe train lost control on the hill before it crashed into a parked UP coal train. This is the story of the 1994 Cajon Pass Runaway. In the early morning hours, on December 14, 1994, a Santa Fe intermodal train PBHLA-1-10 on Santa Fe 576 West had just arrived at Boston, California for a crew change. The train originated from Birmingham, Alabama, and its final destination is Los Angeles, California. The train's trip to California went off without issues. Leading the train was a rather new locomotive. Its kind was introduced to the GE family in the late 1980s. According to some current and retirement engineers I talked to, they're not really a big fan of the standard cab GEs, with one example due to its cab being small. In 1988, GE, or General Electric, has introduced the B40-8 CWs, being fitted with a wide cab instead of the GE standard cab. The Lee engine, 576, was built in 1992, so it was still fairly new. Unfortunately, the train's trip to LA would be its last ride. Behind 576 were FP4596, F455976, and GP60M 144. 96 was built in May of 1990, with 144 also built in 1990, just 2 months after 96 was built. 5976 meanwhile was built in 1968. In control on this westbound intermodal train were a crew of two, consisting of an engineer and conductor, both well rested according to the NTSB reports, especially the engineer, who had recently got back from a 2-week vacation. Both went on duty at Boston at 1:45 a.m. The conductor then connected the brake pipe between 144 and the first car in the consist. After the brake pipe was connected, he walked back to the cab of 576 so the engineer could charge up the brakes before doing a brake test. However, little did the engineer or conductor know is that somewhere inside a brake pipe between the front and the middle of the train, something unexpectedly occurred. But we'll get back to that in time. The engineer stated to the NTSB that he didn't notice anything unusual while he was charging up the handbrakes or doing a brake test for that matter. But regardless, after charging up the brakes and after completing a brake test, Santa Fe 576 West departed Boston at 3:27 a.m. Further up the line, Santa Fe 576 West will soon come to a stop at Lugo, milepost 50.5, to allow the westbound Amtrak to pass before 576 West can continue on westbound. Let's take a break from the Santa Fe for right now and move on to another train and topic today. A UP coal train, CUWL-10 or 9450 West, has safely rolled down the Cajon Pass, and the train was about to come to a stop at milepost 61.55 to wait on the Amtrak and the Santa Fe before the UP coal train can continue on westbound. The train had 3 engines on the head end, with -A41CW number 9450 leading. Now normally we don't know the other 2 units behind the 9450, but one source did mention that the second unit is a Y-cab GE, followed by a standard cab GE. However, just 2 days or so after the sneak peek of this video was released, I happened to stumble upon a YouTuber who actually knew the other 2 train units. So, the 2 locomotives behind the 9450 were presumed to be 2 C&W or Chicago Northwestern GEs -944CW number 8608 and -840C 8519. The train also had 2 helpers in the back, UP-ST40-2s number 3341 and 3354. In the cab on the head end of the coal train were a crew of 3, an engineer, a student engineer, and a conductor. The crew went on duty at Yuma, California at 11 o'clock p.m. on December 13th. The UP coal train consists of 82 cars, measuring at 4,405 feet long and weighing at 10,441 tons. The helper crew consisted of an engineer and a conductor. Both were on duty at Yuma, California at 6:15 p.m. also on December 13th, and assisted the coal train at Victorsville the next day at 3:29 a.m. without issues. Now let's turn our attentions back to the Santa Fe train. 576 West consists of 55 loaded cars, with 13 of those cars are 5-pack double-stack rail cars, measuring at 5,261 feet in length and weighing in at 4,882 tons. After the accident, the UP helper engineer told something rather unusual to the investigators, and I quote, "I had a look at the wheels because I was thinking, those wheels are going to be hot or smoking or something. I looked at the wheels and didn't notice anything. They weren't even warm. I did see grease on some of the wheels, you know, how we pick up grease and stuff and it wasn't burned off. So in my assessment, they never even got warm." The NTSB then switches their attentions to the brakes on the cars. Unfortunately, there was no information on car number 1, 2, or 3 due to all 3 of them most likely being destroyed in the crash. But here's what we do know though. Car number 4 did have its brakes working properly, as well as car number 10, 11, and 15. Cars 5 through 6 did have some soft applications, also known as soft sets, as well as cars 12 through 14 and 16 through 22. If that wasn't enough, car number 9 has some issues that did not respond. Cars 12 through 14 did not have enough braking power and the hose was leaking. Cars 16 through 22 also had limited braking power and their wheels did not respond. And cars 23 through 29 did not respond at all. So it was concluded that an interference during the emergency was caused by a kink known as a blockage in the air hose. A blockage or a kink in the air hose can occur in a worn out or in a damaged air hose, or connected in an unauthorized design or an improper air hose, cutting off the train's brakes. Here's what the NTSB has to say in one of their final conclusions, and I quote, "The blockage or restriction occurred after the locomotive units were added and tested at Barstow." And here's another conclusion, and I quote, "Because of a train line blockage or restriction, the only responsive brakes on the train were on the locomotives and the first 3 cars." The question is though, is that how did a blockage occur when the locomotives were added and tested at Barstow remains a mystery. But let's finally move on to the disaster itself until the end. The next few miles up the grade were completely normal, uneventful for that matter. The train was maintaining its speed, the crew were taking their time, nothing out of the ordinary, well, not just yet. It seems like it's going to be a smooth sailing trip towards Los Angeles. However, the crew had no idea of what's about to happen next. Soon after, the train had reached the grade and begins to descend down the grade. The engineer then starts to put some brakes on to slow the train down as they were making their way down the grade. But as he was doing it though, he noticed that the train was not slowing down. He then tried to put some more brakes on, but no response. And soon after, he froze the brakes into emergency. And it's at that point that it went from a routine trip to confusion, and from bad to worse. We have now reached on what we'll call the scene of the runaway. Shortly afterwards, the engineer radios other trains about the dire situation and radios the dispatcher that the train was in emergency. We're in emergency. We're not slowing down. Come in, dispatcher.
Santa Fe Cajon dispatch, over.
Yeah, we're
Santa Fe Cajon dispatch, over.
Can you move that UP train at Cajon? Yeah, you're following the Amtrak right down the hill, over? Well, we are in emergency and the rear end's not going in the big hole. Is this the coal train, over? No, this is the train behind the coal train. Is this the Santa Fe 576 West? The 576 West.
What is your speed now, over? Santa Fe 576 West. What is your speed now, over?
576 to the Cajon sub, over. To why the Santa Fe engineer did not respond to the dispatcher, it is believed that the engineer was trying his best to slow down or stop the train, but he ran out of options. Still accelerating down the grade, he contacts the UP helpers to get off the power immediately.
Come in, UP helpers. Come in, UP helpers. Santa Fe Cajon dispatcher to Santa Fe 576 West, over. UP helpers, get off your train. Helpers, get off your train. We've got your train coming your way. Santa Fe Cajon dispatcher to Santa Fe 576 West, over. 576 West. Are you the one that is in emergency, over? Yes, we are. What is your speed now, over? 40, 50.
Dispatcher, why don't you let that UP that is at Cajon flag by that red signal at Cajon westbound? UP coal train 9450, over.
We're coming on now. Let us get some speed. Let's go.
The head of UP engineer decides to let his train to be at a standstill instead, and immediately contacts the UP helpers to get off the power immediately. Hello, helper. Come in with power. Get to going. Coal train. Get off those engines now. Let's go.
Coal train helpers, Get off the power! Get off the power! Gold train is in emergency at Cajon!
It was clear that they would not have time to get out of the way. All they can do is leave the parked UP coal train sitting there and let the runaway Santa Fe crash into them. UP coal helpers, do you acknowledge that? Over? UP coal train to a dispatcher. Over.
Go ahead, over.
Yes, I have instructed the helpers to get off the power. We are getting off also. Is your train stopped? Yes, sir. They told us to get off the power before it was too late. Alright, are you stopped and you're abandoning the train? Is that correct? Yes, sir. I don't have any choice. The helpers are already off the train. Over. Alright. Two other trains nearby heard the situation and immediately brought their trains to a stop. Cajon UP 3492 East. Over. We'll stop at the hotbox detector. Alright, thank you. Over. Santa Fe 877 to Cajon Sub. Cajon Sub. We'll stop here at Summit. We will wait for your instructions on the south track. Over. Okay, 877, thank you. Over. And that was the last transmission before disaster. The Santa Fe collides with the UP at 5:12 a.m. at 80 kilometers an hour or 50 miles an hour. The collision completely destroyed the B40-8CW when it slammed head-on to the UP helpers, thus causing the engine to be obliterated during the impact. The front and the middle section of 96 had suffered both fire and catastrophic damage, with the back of it suffering minor damage but intact. Nearly, a 5976's body was melting away during the fire like ice in the sun, and 144's entire body was nearly badly burned, with its long hood destroyed. The UPST-40s succumbed to a similar fate like 96, and they were both buried in the dirt. The fire was soon spreading after the fuel tanks for the derailed locomotives erupted. The UP helpers were unharmed during the collision, and thankfully the Santa Fe crew also survived, so be it with injuries, after bailing out of 576 on the left side. UP helper crew found the Santa Fe conductor, while the paramedics soon found the Santa Fe engineer, and the Santa Fe crew was soon both rushed to the hospital, and they were both lucky to still be alive. The wreck in total was over $4 million in damage. The NTSB released their final report on November 21st, 1995. In the end, UP 3341, 3354, Santa Fe 576, 96, 5976, and 144 were deemed damaged beyond repair and scrapped. Santa Fe 576 became the very first -8 wide cab and the very first B40-8CW to be scrapped. 96 became the very first FP45 to be scrapped. 5976 became the very first F45 to be scrapped, and 144 became the first GP60M to be scrapped. The head-end UP power were unharmed and was soon put back into service. 9450 continued service with the UP until it was retired and sold to GECX, and was last spotted in 2019, and its current whereabouts are still unknown today. CNW 8608 also remained in service until it was retired, sold to UP, repainted, and renumbered to 9672. It was last seen in 2015, and its whereabouts are also unknown today. And finally, CNW 8519 also remained in service until it was retired, first sold to the UP, repainted and renumbered as 9041, sold to GECX, and sold to CN, repainted and renumbered as 2018. It was last spotted in 2016, and its whereabouts are also unknown. But this was far from over. Despite the runaways occurring in 1989 and 1994, disaster struck again just 2 years later. On February 1st, 1996, another Santa Fe train ran away down the grade due to another blockage in the air hose. Of the 3 crew members that were on board at that time, 2 out of 3 crew members sadly died at the scene. The conductor, who smashed his head into the rock after jumping from the train, being killed instantly, and the brakeman, who survived but sadly died after inhaling the carbon monoxide poisoning from the fire. The engineer stayed on the train and lived, severely injured but alive. If you're interested to watch my 1996 Cajon Pass Runaway video, the link to the video will be in the description below. And there is one thing I want to mention before ending this video. It has to do with both the engineers on the head end of the UP coal train and the Santa Fe intermodal train. Both of them, in my opinion, were heroes. Both the Santa Fe and the head UP engineer both warned the UP helper crew to get off the power immediately, and thankfully they both heard the messages and bailed out just in time. And not only did the head end UP engineer alerted the UP helpers to get off the train, but he sacrificed the coal train and used it like a shield to stop the runaway sooner rather than later. What do you guys think? Should both men be hailed as heroes? And do you think I'm missing somebody else that was a hero that day? If so, let me know in the comments below. Thank you.